Greetings, everyone, from the God Apart from Religion Revolution channel. This is video number 10 for building a healthy body. In this section, we will discuss God's planned method of avoiding the baking of cookies that are all exactly the same, i.e., the possibility of maintaining freedom and individuality within certain necessary limits, along with clarifying some of the methods he uses in order to avoid burning the whole lot. Please pardon the pun. So let's begin. Very unsurprisingly, God, contrary to the popular false religious opinion, is not baking cookies, using cookie cutters, looking for the same result in each individual. On the contrary, this living life with Christ is a somewhat paradoxical creative process, perfect and imperfect at the same time. The many, with varying imperfections, seeking a relationship with the ultimate final perfection. This fact of the individual's responsibility to work through this problem on equal footing while accepting 100% individual accountability must be humbly and fully accepted, or pride and abuse will result from the association with God. Absolutely no mediator, no consultant, no group, no one other than Christ alone is acceptable. No preachers, no other leaders, no group status markers. Just the individual believer reflecting off of Christ, alone with Christ, purified by Christ. The co-sponsored believer becoming an individual work of art. The believer seeing how far he or she can follow the divine into eternity, into spiritual perfection. In one sense, we have arrived at perfection when we actually begin to put on Christ. And in another sense, we will not arrive until mortality has put on immortality. 1 Corinthians 15:54. And we finally see ourselves and each other face to face. See 1 Corinthians 13:12. This statement of faith is, in part, a tackling of this paradox of coming out from under the burden of a rightful judgment for our former misbehavior, and our coming away from the evil of judging our brothers and sisters to be inferior, incomplete, imperfect in Christ. We must gloriously move from predominantly seeing the darkness to seeing the light. We must fundamentally, not merely superficially, i.e. drastically, change our worldviews. We attain the altered state of privilege of seeing the light all around us that was before hidden to us. And we see it in everyone. The light, our new worldview must constantly shine on the darkness versus the darkness controlling the light or causing it to be intermittent or put out, to become another form of darkness itself. And in so doing, we must not see our brothers and sisters or anyone as static creations trapped inside of time. But rather we must see them, treat them as ongoingly moldable clay, as individual works of godly art, sculptures whom God has vouched for in eternity. Yes, many may stumble and fail, but let God be the final judge, for we uncompromisingly have the light of the world. Conversely, what about the church of empty vessels? Sadly, as a result of their frozen in time snapshot organizational chart mentality, the modern church is full of levels and structures, trapped mentally inside of time. They can only see the now, which leads to an unholy stratification, stagnation, and person-to-person accusation, disrespect, devaluation. And as a result, the broken church has almost completely been taken over by unbelievers. And I will define that in a moment. Who are essentially empty vessels, i.e. the upwardly mobile doctors of theology and preachers of organized religion, who form an intellectually oriented elitist leadership group in the here and now, seeking money, power, status, and personal gain as their unspoken ultimate priority. It's logical in the here and now, what they're doing. They have sadly, unknowingly, maybe devised, formed pyramid-like hierarchical organizational structures, which always involve inequality and are also impenetrable to the humble, that formally protect their standing and status. You got to go with them. You got to be like them to get up. And ask yourself, am I converted to what basically amounts to another worldly structure or organizational chart type entity? Did Christ talk about the organizational chart? The organizational hierarchy in the Sermon on the Mount? Simply put, the cares of the world have replaced sound doctrine and actual belief. 2 Timothy 4:3 and 4. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but according to their own desires, because they have itching ears, they will heap up for themselves teachers, and they will turn their ears away from the truth and be turned aside to fables. And that's what the church is really good at, is giving lots of meal for the grist mill of fables. Not staying with the simple basics. Sadly, belief that falls short takes a completely different path than what is prescribed by Jesus and the Father and the Helper. An unbeliever may be defined behaviorally in various ways, but I am more specifically referring to someone who relies on the world, i.e. someone who predominantly relies on their own human wisdom, status, intellect, social standing, whether they claim they are listening to the Bible, God, or any other holy person or thing. Ultimately, they are not actually relying on or listening intently to God in his intentionally counterintuitive prescribed manner. Up becomes down and down becomes up. These are, as it talks about in Proverbs, these are those who wish to debate you into submission. That's how they show who they are. Not by turning you over to the Spirit, but they want to debate you and show you they're intellectually more gifted than you, have more knowledge than you, have a better memory than you. I don't think that's what following God is about. Subnote 1. Spiritual outcomes are not so much, if any, a matter of intellectual content. Outcomes are more of an individual matter of spiritual choices and character building. Subnote 2. I am not saying that these individuals who are ultimately caught up in the reasonings and arguments of their groups are inherently horrible people in all instances. They've been caught up too. Mostly. Some are pretty bad. I am saying that their ingrained economic goals are necessarily leading them astray, and that these followers of man are, as a result, tragically misinformed, misled. They are literally in a biblically referenced ditch, stuck in the mud of earthly goals and performances. The ego-driven goals must be given up in order to be fully rescued from the earthly mud. Well, how do we get out of the mud? See Romans 9:33. As it is written, behold, I lay a stumbling stone and a rock of offense in Zion. And whoever believes on him will not be put to shame. Believes in this verse refers directly to peacefully abiding in, listening to, internally with intention to God's Spirit's love, peace, mercy, kindness, and so on, versus causing the destruction of godly fellowship by dwelling in, listening externally and internally to Satan's hierarchical worldly spirits. Anger, hate, accusation, greed, worldly knowledge, knowledge of fault, knowledge of nakedness as it was in the garden, and by extension listening to wicked knowledge, reasonings and arguments, mud, instead of dwelling in Christ's sacrificial spirits for peaceful discipleship. In short, belief is all about prioritizing internal listening to Christ as a means of sifting through the time constraints and our modern marketing state of information overload. Nobody can study to a complete extent to know everything there is about God. That's not the standard. The standard is the Spirit we dwell in, the fruits that His church will display, not the knowledge that it will display. It's the fruits, love, peace, kindness, mercy, generosity. Those are the things that are going to stand out as saying, yeah, those people are mine. There simply is no other easy way out, no shifting of our responsibilities. Nobody can dwell in the Spirit for you. We must, as individuals, listen internally, almost exclusively, to Christ. No hierarchies or substitutes, paid preachers, priests, or theologians needed. In clarifying this problem, we are purposely removing the mystery, the mind trip aspects from the words belief, believe, and knowledge. More on the details of this all too frequently belittled life-altering change in spirit as we go. Because, of course, the enemy doesn't want you to change your spirit. For you see, listening to Christ's Spirit exclusively is indeed seen by elitists as a mockingly simpleton-esque method, i.e., it is for them a stone of stumbling. And they stumble at its simplicity, ease, and the independence of the original plan. They need more complication. They sell more complication. It's not what they say, what they market. When you look at them, they're going to try to put on the best front on every word they say, and they're clever. It's what they do in spirit. Or should I say, what they don't do. It's the spirits that abide in them, the anger and et cetera, that comes out of them. That if you watch a little bit, you can see it. The lies, whatever it is that you watch them doing in a worldly manner, you can see it. Jesus' overly simple solution to the problem of pleasing God, i.e., a demonstrated willingness to allow His victorious Spirit to dwell in us exclusively, true belief, was destined to be rejected. Jesus knew this was going to happen in practice down through time by the overly ambitious leaders of the knowledge-based religion who competitively fill their minds with the overcomplication of endless examples of man's wisdom. They say saved by faith and then immediately usher new converts away from their biblical still small voice and engage in group mind control by directing new converts to endless man-made speeches, performances, teachings, laws, doctrines, books, videos, projects, fundraisers, and so on and so on. What about simply telling the people to just relax and listen for themselves? Like Job did when he was confronted by the devil. Like Job did when he was confronted by the friends who were saying they knew better. Job listened to his heart and got it right. Listen to Jesus quietly, peacefully speaking to each one in their own heart and conscience. That's what we need to do within their own particular situations. What if that is all a huge part of what we really need to do? What if this truly is transformative one by one? Please consider allowing the Spirit to abide, to dwell in you exclusively. We will end this section here. In the next section, we will discuss putting an end to lip service and the anger that may produce in the fallen church. There are many examples of the fightings and wars of the fallen church. May the Lord bless you and keep you until we partake of the fruits of the Spirit with one another once again. God bless.